So my name is Johnny Resendez, and I am currently a news reporter for KOTV here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I am a proud graduate of Oklahoma State University, and I graduated May of 2020 with a degree in sports media. So for me, I always wanted to tell meaningful stories. I always wanted to make a meaningful impact to my community. In college, I focused a lot on the sports aspect because I was a huge fan and everything. Now, since I've transitioned to news, I try to tell as much meaningful stories to the community as possible. We always try to tell stories that are impactful in so many ways, whether it's a story that may save a life, a story that may touch someone's heart. That's allowed really the public to kind of, just build relationships with us. And I've always wanted to be right there in the mix. So many times we could sometimes live in an echo chamber where we don't really know what's going on in our community. For me, I always want to know what's going on with everything. So I wanted to just be in the midst of everything, tell meaningful stories, and just really get to connect with people. A typical day, that's a funny question because the reporters get that a lot. And the reason why it's funny is because there is no typical day. There's some days where it's slow and you just go in, get a story done, and be about your day after that. And then there are some other days where just everything goes haywire and you're, like your head's on a swivel and you just really don't know what to expect for the story that you're covering. There's constant updates whenever there's breaking news and everything. It kind of gives you a little bit of an adrenaline rush for sure. So I can't really say what a typical day is. It's just more of go in, think about the story that you're trying to do, make sure that it's up to the standards that the station has asked of you, and just go from there. After that, it's all what's in your head, as good as you could write it. But like I said, all that can be thrown out the door if there's breaking news. So that's a really good question. So for me, in my opinion, the biggest one is to just be curious, just to be interested in the community, be more interested than interesting. If you ask a lot of the reporters, a lot of them stay in touch with like what's going on in the community in Facebook groups, through social media. They ask people around. Some of the times we get story ideas just by driving around the street and just seeing what's around us. So you have to be naturally curious to know, okay, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? How can I turn that into a story? Another one is to be detail oriented. So many times, with the pressure of the job and everything like that, journalists sometimes make mistakes. Sometimes we may get a name wrong. Sometimes we may, have a typo or whatever. And sometimes that could be a little bit costly. So a lot of times we really like to stress the detail of it all, be accurate, double, triple, quadruple check your work. And then the last one is, do you like to be creative? Do you like making things? Do you love the process? That's a big part of being a journalist. Do you like, not necessarily like the product, but the process? To me, I've always been the type of person who's loved the process. I love the grind. I've loved the intricacies of just editing, shooting, and just writing it. Because I'm an MMJ, I usually one-man band almost everything. So for me, I always just love the process of creating a story. That to me is a little bit more rewarding than the actual story that is on air. Right. So I could speak for me. There's three that I really try to emphasize each and every single day that I go to work. Number one, and I think this is the most important across the board, is accuracy. Be a reliable reporter. Make sure that people trust you whenever you are going on the air and saying something. Because like I said earlier, sometimes that information can either save a life or it could do the exact opposite if you really screw up. So just be accurate. Whenever you may hear something, if it's not from an official, someone says this, ask them, well, how do you know that? Always, always, always quadruple check. It's better to be right and last than first and wrong. So for me, I always try to emphasize, no matter whatever information I'm writing down, I always ask myself, where did I get this information? Is it reliable? Did I get this from an official, or is this just word of mouth? A lot of times you've seen kind of in the recent years, sometimes journalists can kind of veer away from that. But a lot of times there's generally a lot of reporters who really do emphasize accuracy. And that goes hand in hand with the other ethnic that I think that I try to emulate every single day is honesty. As a young reporter, I still have to build a rapport with the audience. How am I able to make the public trust me in those situations, especially in breaking news situations where there's a lot going on? So the only way to really get the trust of the public is for you to be honest with them. Tell them exactly what you're hearing, and tell them as it is. A lot of times, like I said, there's sometimes we may get there's could be conflicting reports and everything like that. Maybe there's something that's being hidden. For me, I always try to present the facts and all of them as they are so that the public may know. And then the last thing for me, and this doesn't necessarily have to do with the actual job itself, it's just going on the air or like even sometimes getting sources and everything, but for me it's leadership. Whether you're in the TV business like I am, whether you're going to be in print, whether you're going to be in radio, you're going to have to work with people. And a lot of times, sometimes they may not be people who you would may call friends outside of work. But every single newsroom you go to, every single radio station you go to, it's a team effort. Everything is a team effort here. It's not necessarily me. It may seem like that whenever you're on the air and it's just you. But behind the scenes, it's much more of a team effort. So try to be a good leader, whether whether you try to be a vocal leader, whether you try to be someone who leads by example. That type of leadership goes a long, long way. And in a stressful, demanding job like journalism, sometimes it's good to have people behind your back. Start as soon as possible, because you only have a finite amount of time to get meaningful reps, whether you want to do, like I said, print, radio, TV. You only have so much time before you start applying for jobs. When people go to college, like let's say you're a freshman, you have 4 years. A lot of times people may wait a little longer and everything, and they kind of lose those meaningful reps they could have started right from the beginning. So it takes practice. It takes practice, and you only have a finite amount of reps. So by the time you graduate, you'll be well equipped. And the next thing, and this isn't necessarily to really discourage anyone, but it's a grind. Journalism is a grind. It's long hours. It's oftentimes, you come home late sometimes, depending on the day and everything. And depending on how intense the story is, you may still be thinking about it a few days or weeks after that. But for me, it's the most rewarding grind. It's something that I never get tired of. For me, it's one of those things where, like I said, I enjoy the process more than the product. And I just love making things. I love editing. I love shooting and everything. I love compiling it all together. So it's a grind for sure. But if you enjoy the grind and if you enjoy the work process, I don't think there's any more rewarding job than this.